Awesome. New faces. I recognize everybody here. And does anyone have anything for the agenda? Right now it's completely empty. This may be the fastest working group meeting we've ever had.
I'm glad it's going to be recorded and put up there for people to watch.
Yeah. Well, hey, they know we were here. That's important, right? Maybe. Joe, I know you had a bunch of stuff yesterday. Did we get to work through all that? I don't even know if we took all the things that we didn't get to. I guess we got
to. Just all the RFC PRs? Is that what you're talking about?
I just know there was a bunch yesterday, and a couple of them I think had your name on it. I just want to make sure that we got around to those yesterday.
Yeah. Let's go over. Yeah, we touched on everything I wanted to touch on, but I know you made an update, I think, to, right. Okay, I was looking for your name, but it's got my name on it. Yeah, let's go over the update you made, and then I'll go over the update I made to the pack command.
Okay. Let's get this going. All right. Let's see. All right. I made some changes to the move analyze phase RFC. I basically removed everything that had to do with Project TOML. We can reintroduce that later as necessary. So yeah, all the inputs that were related to it, as well as what the responsibilities of Analyzer were gutted, with anything that had to do with downloading build packs, making inline build packs a thing, basically anything that could be blocking in this, because we do want to get to this so that we can start to validate mixins and validate the stack. So that's sort of our first. So yeah, that's basically all that I've done here. I think it's in a pretty good, yeah. Yes, I don't know if there's any questions about this. It looked like Ben has since put his approval on it.
Yeah, I mean, that aligns with what I expected you to change, so there may not be any more feedback.
That's a good question. Yeah, I'm guessing 06, since that's what we're talking about, but I can put that in.
Oh, yeah, I saw this. Is that, can we do that, Emily, do you think? Is that like it feels impossible right now, knowing what version it's going to go into of the API. Like, it feels like it's hard to assess that until it actually becomes a spec PR, you know?
I just saw some other RFCs that indicate like in what API we are going to introduce it. So I was wondering.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's valuable. I just worry that it's, it sounds pathetic, but like
it totally makes sense.
Yeah, like I'd like for it to go in 06, but I think it makes sense to leave it out of the text of the document, because we could always rearrange the spec releases later and it would be out of date.
Makes sense.
Yeah, like that, unless there's something that it depends on, and then you would call out that it has to happen after something else that has yet to be maybe fully defined or something. But yeah, I agree with that. Less is more in these RFCs, otherwise you go back and version numbers get confusing. So. Cool.
I feel like we get it wrong too a lot of times. We're like, this is going to go out in this API, and it definitely does not.
Maybe we can FCP this. Like, I think from the meeting yesterday, Stephen was on board with this part of the plan without the Project TOML, and it has the requisite approvals.
Yeah, I'm +1 on that.
Okay.
Who's the shepherd?
Ben.
Oh, Ben.
He already approved it, so he should be happy with that. When I was going through this, I was looking at all the inputs, because there were some typos and misalignments and stuff. I added cache image here. I don't know if I added it yesterday or maybe the day before, but it kind of in our conquest of being able to validate that you have registering access, I added it here. it's not something that you technically have to have for Analyzer. But if you were to provide a bunch of image tags, I didn't add tags here, but I thought about it, like the additional tags that you do on Exporter, so that you can validate any and all registries up front that you intend to write to eventually. But I wasn't sure if that belonged in this RFC or not.
I think it's also worth figuring out, like adding cache stir, because there can be layers that are only in the cache and not on the previous image. And I think we want those layers to have been built for the correct stack. I think the first pass of implementing it, we probably don't need to check that because we need to actually add that information in the cache metadata, and it's not the most important thing that could go wrong. But I think the cache metadata should eventually have the stack ID that the cache was originally for, so we know whether it's sensible to restore the layers.
Okay, so you think add cache stir back to Analyzer? Because I think I removed it because it wasn't currently being used in the code path when I was playing around with this. But yeah, if we think that there's value in having it in Analyzer in like the near term, then I think I can add it back to this.
Do we not restore caches if the stack has changed?
Right now we do. We just restore whatever's in there, but you can imagine situations where that doesn't work, right?
Yeah, is that, I guess I'm wondering, we ran to, I guess, this discussion at Heroku as well, just generically of like, should that be up to the build pack author or the platform to kind of, or the builder or whatever, to kind of decide that. So I know for like a lot of Java caches, right? Like you kind of don't care because it doesn't have a system level dependency, but I feel like that's the exception, and literally everyone else definitely pays the cost because if you are depending on anything libc, you basically have to throw it out, right?
Yeah, and I mean to the point where like if you're building a Maven app and you have to re-download your entire Maven cache because the stack changed, and that has no bearing on the, like, that would really upset users.
Did put destination tags here.
It definitely would be nice to, I guess, future thinking, like a way for a build pack author to basically,
yeah, like in Buildpacks
have to, like, yeah, or maybe just when you
like,
define the cache layer or something, or like the layer toml or something, to basically have a setting be like, on stack change, please throw this out, versus having every build pack author have to do it.
Yeah, like right now you can put it in the metadata, right, and do it yourself. But
yeah,
right.
Yeah, you have to do that all yourself, like you said.
Yeah, that seems really useful.
Yeah, I'm not against having the directory here. I don't think it hurts anything. It's like a, if we don't use it right now, that's okay. I think it's okay to reserve that for future use, just so we don't have to do a spec.
Yeah, and these are like all optional too, right?
Yeah, right. Because it at least, if you don't, it has some backups for cache stir and stuff today, right? So you don't have to pass it as an argument, but we will use it.
Yeah, or like if you're a platform that's like, we don't do caching, don't pass those in.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm sure the spec will, expand on some of these, and we may find that we don't need or need some of the inputs. I don't think it's supposed to be exhaustive. I just sort of made it that way, but to call out a few of the things that were different. But all right, Joe, you want to go over the next one? What was it? Want me to
Sure. I was just going to review my changes to the pack create command, which is no longer called the pack create command. I went with new to match Rails. The other option was a knit, which would match npm and maybe Go mod and other things. I don't know. Definitely not a hill I'm prepared to die on, but that's what I went with. I removed the language option and added a note about future work for the template. So changed it a little bit more just to be, it's bash. These are the files it generates. Definitely simplifies things, but it's a little bit more restrictive. And oh yeah, I added an open question about whether we should generate some kind of like test stubs, like set up, if we're doing bash, set up show unit 2 or something. that might be going a little bit too far in the like template direction. So I'm unsure of that.
Do you have a good kind of system for your like build pack a day where you have tests?
No, I mean, I like
Do you wish you
most
did?
of my build packs rely on, do I wish I did? Yeah, I do. I mean, I tend to rely on like integration tests, which for a lot of the bash build packs, it's like a test directory with some shell scripts that just run the, you know, the build pack and make sure it exits 0 or non-zero or whatever, or particular things are created, runs the image even, that kind of stuff. That doesn't really fit well into something that you would, that exists, right? Like I could imagine creating a bash-based integration test framework for build packs. That would be really cool, but it doesn't exist yet. The like typical SHA unit stuff, I question its usefulness generally. Like, you know, like what we've discovered a lot of the bash build packs is like the things you need to test are like, did this file get created? Well, you're really just testing whether the touch command works. Like, did this jar file get generated in the target directory? Well, you're really just testing Maven at that point, and you have to run like at the point that you're actually running Maven, that's not a unit test. So, like my experience is that there are a limited set of true unit tests, and you tend to have your own kind of custom way of doing it, which could probably be consolidated into something reusable. But let's say that existed, like taking some of the integration testing in Bash. Is that something that would be contributed to the Buildpacks, like github.com/buildpacks? And I guess in the way that like libs the Buildpack is.
Yeah, if you're joining platform and contributing to it, I guess.
Yeah. The reason I ask is like I wouldn't want to default
doesn't
to
have to
putting
be,
something
though,
in
right?
there that's not. Well, that's kind of what I was thinking, right? Like I'm not sure I'd want to add something that wasn't part of the project, but then shutting it too wouldn't be a part of the project. So I don't know. Like I wouldn't, if we were generating a Go build pack, I probably wouldn't put packet as a dependency.
But if you were doing test stuff around it, you would totally put Steven's like spec thing or something, right? There's,
I don't know.
I don't
or it
know.
doesn't
Someone
have to
might
be
want to write table tests. Like,
I mean,
I
I
just leave it
love
out.
Steven's. I love Steven's testing. A strong opinion there, but yeah, that feels like
it's like a step too far to me. I probably wouldn't add any.
But at the same time, I'm a big fan of the way Rails new works.
Yeah.
And it is very, here's the test framework you'll be using unless you override it. But I feel like the template directory really gets us. Yeah. But I feel like the template directories really give us an avenue for that, where you can have the default Go template and we can do whatever we want in there. And if you want to use test table or whatever Emily was talking about, you just have a Go test table repo. Oh man, I feel like therein is the Docker file problem where it's like Go 115 test table packet, and like all the different, like the combinatorics
I think the thing with the
problem.
template, the template thing is you can basically make a more interactive thing, right? That allows people to configure stuff because it isn't, it's like
using a templating language, you mean?
Yeah, like I think you can do that with the template flag. Like I think with template, you're like, okay, I want to configure something, right? And I can configure
like
as
the
much
Go
or as
version,
little as I want. Yeah. So you'll need to have like a million of them. Because I think the Docker file problem is probably worse there. Like that's an explosion of stuff that would be unmaintainable.
Yeah, I feel like the Rails thing sounds good, but like there's so much that Rails does for you compared to like what this would do immediately, right? Like Like it's
I mean, that
testing
being
its
said,
own
like,
infrastructure of like routes and all this other stuff that it sets up. Where like when you start a new build pack and you don't have a purpose, it's not like a website. It's not like it's running and ready to go. At least in some capacity, like a build pack that does
You're
nothing
saying,
does
yeah, a
nothing.
build pack is a little bit more abstract than a Rails app,
Well,
which is a web.
Well, you immediately get
I think
into
that's
like
what Ethan's saying.
customizing. You immediately get into like so customizing it so much that you're testing the result of like what the build pack produces.
I mean, there's still something really nice about like if the
Mhm.
hypothetical bash thing Joe said existed, to have a thing that's like, okay, well, one, I think bash is also special in that I don't think people have a strong like opinion on how they test their bash. Probably most developers. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong there. Like I felt like when we brought up Steven's testing thing in Go, people were just in this call were like, well, actually, but like I feel like if you said like here's a custom testing thing that basically sets up integration testing that maybe plugs into
Right,
back
right.
for you like under the hood and like builds the build pack and runs it, like I feel like that's actually a lot of value even for a very simple build pack. Just like make sure this like I can actually run detect.
Yeah.
Um,
So yeah,
I
so I
would
agree
like
with that.
to. Yeah.
Given that it doesn't exist, it's definitely off the table right now. And so maybe what I would like to create that. I'm gun shy because of Build Pack Test Runner and its failure, but I think I'd like to try and create something like that. And then once it exists, we can have a conversation about whether to put it in or not.
Yeah, we could eventually start simple with like, a make file, or like you said, if pack has a like it would be nice to be able to have a way
That's interesting.
to like run against
Ooh,
a directory
a make
somewhere.
file is, yeah, every one of my build packs has a make file with a package target to run, basically to run build pack package, test. I think some of them have their own builder. So there's like a create command that builds the build pack and the builder and everything.
yeah, I'd be +1 just for a make file of convenience stuff that every build pack author probably is gonna do.
Yeah.
I hate make, but I agree.
It unfortunately has won, so there's no arguing against it anymore.
I was gonna say it seems like a lot of this conversation is like very future facing. The one thing I wanted to add is that a lot of these, like opinions are probably going to be driven by the community as a whole, and I don't know that we can do too much to predict that just quite yet.
Yeah.
So for the purpose of this RFC, I think the general basis is like, yes, we want this to exist, and then overall, how do we expand it is more or less of a platform concern, or a platform team concern, I should say. And then, just kind of take it from there.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, part of the reason I want to keep this simple is to get it out there and get some feedback on it. So
Yeah, I will say the flip side of that, a counterpoint to kind of Javier's comment is that I think for a lot of people, they're looking for someone to have an opinion on how to do that stuff, right? Like for a lot of people coming to build packs, if I don't think they have an opinion on how it should or should not be done, they may have an opinion after they use your thing for sure, but I think they're definitely looking for kind of the project for docs and guidance on how to write and do that stuff, right?
Yep. I think part of me though is like looking at this more as like a ease of use thing, not so much as trying to set up any sort of particular opinion. Because I think as soon as you start introducing like very specific, let's say even more complex testing frameworks, then it just becomes something else that they have to learn. So although I don't disagree with that, I don't know if that's the primary goal of this particular feature, right? At least not for me. It's more to just get them up and going, not so much to provide this complete infrastructure for them.
Yeah, it would be cool if instead of a make file from that directory, you could run like, pack test and then give it a path to like a different directory. And then it would just like slurp up your build pack and like run that one build pack against whatever the path is or something like that to kind of get rid of the make file bit of it.
go into like a different subset of commands though, like dev, right? Pack dev, build pack
Yeah.
new, or something. I'm
But it's
just
so
Well,
important for like all the
throwing stuff.
volumes and the caching, because like even if you test this thing and like a shit, like there's just I don't know, like unless you understand the files you need to delete to like test certain capabilities with pack, and like, do you know what pack clear your cache does? Like, no one, like they don't know what that does, and so being able to like sort of have a build command that's targeted at pulling in like a particular build pack and automatically assuming that build pack is going to be the only build pack running would be interesting.
An alternative, instead of trying to shove this into pack, is like, what if there was a different tool altogether that was just targeted for the development of build packs or something else? I mean, I think pack
I was
to me is
gonna
like a
say
running thing.
something like that. I feel like there's just too many opinions about how to do this that I feel like even the build pack authors in this room aren't going to agree about what the skeleton or the normal target should be. Like even in VMware, we have two different Go build pack libraries, right? I could easily imagine like a packet init command and also a libcmp init.
You only had one Go build pack library for V2 though, right? Or was there
Yes.
also two?
There's only one.
Yeah, I worry about another tool because it's going to have to do a lot of the things that pack already does, like volumes and all the same parameters, so that someone switching between pack and whatever this other tool is, like integrating with Docker remote stuff, like all the improvements that we do to like make pack work for all these new scenarios, and like you're gonna have to kind of backward that over at some point to make it.
I mean, I think it could be shared, and I think it's a much bigger architecture decision. But I do like, I mean, even right now, pack seems fairly bloated, right? And so adding more things on the side that seem to be like almost like they're definitely not related to an app developer, right? That just wants to like run build packs. And so I think to me, it kind of starts bringing the idea of composition, right? Like we want to, like in a lot of the other ecosystems, there's a lot of different tools that you could use all together to make a very cohesive experience. And we could still do something like that, but it doesn't have to be under the pack CLI, right? Like look at GGCR, right? That repo and its set of tools. Like you still know, and you could still access a whole bunch of really nice functionality, but it's not just GGCR CLI, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever this tool is, could use pack the library,
yes.
right? It doesn't
I
take
think that's the
into
important
pack.
part. Yeah. I just would hate to like diverge off and lose all that, all the features we gain.
But at the same time, I think like part of the spirit of the RFC is ease of use. So I don't know, asking folks to download a new tool, which then that creates more surface area for us to maintain. There's a somewhat new of a learning curve there to learn the idioms of a new CLI. There's definitely a cost there. And I mean, I actually don't think of something like this as like a tool for somebody like someone in the Paketo project really, or like somebody in Heroku or Google who's like their job is making build packs, and see that as a tool for just somebody who's trying to get their app working with build packs. And so it's like that like almost like the Docker file authorship or tweaking process where like they've got the file open here and they're trying to run it and see it. And like, it's a very fast feedback loop working back and forth. And this is a tool that is going to allow them to make those quick edits to like, by just adding a couple lines to this new build pack, which is going to get them over the line of like the container actually being able to build. So in a way, I kind of see it as part of like the build and run workflow that, or I guess there's no run workflow in Pack, but part of the build workflow in Pack for local development. And so that would be my argument to keep it as part of the same tool, because like even a very garden variety developer who's not like true build pack author in the sense that they do it every day and are trying to do it from a scalability perspective. They just want to do it from the perspective of making this one app work, I think is something we should consider.
Yeah,
I don't know. I see
think
the
you're-
flip side. Sorry.
Well, I was gonna say, I think you're spot on with the Dockerfile analogy and why Dockerfile has taken off. And it's that, like what I would characterize what you said as like a tight inner loop. And if we could get there and then also be like, oh, and you can run tests on that, like that's like, good luck, have fun testing your Dockerfile. Sorry, go ahead, Javier.
Yeah, I was going to say just the flip side. I don't have definitely a strong, argument against, but the flip side would be that, like, in general, the way I see it is there's different personas, right? And if you're talking about a standard app developer, having to even create their own build pack seems counter to what we're trying to do here, because there's so much that, in my opinion, they have to learn about how to construct a build pack, right? And how to, like, the whole build pack API is not the easiest to go through. And that's just more or less my take on it.
Seems like we might want to guide that person towards inline build packs in this particular.
Yeah, I think that sometimes inline build packs, but there's definitely like, so here's a good example of one where that wouldn't be the case. I've been doing that advent of build packs, and so people have started giving me ideas, and someone said, yeah, it's really hard to write this Kafka CLI Docker file. I want to have like a Kafka CLI image, and they want it to be a build pack that you could add to any app. So you wouldn't make a good use case for inline build pack because you don't want to copy that project TOML around. But it's also a pretty simple thing, like install the CLI, set up the certs and all that stuff. You don't need, it's Java, so you don't need like root to set up the certs. So yeah, I mean, sometimes inline build pack, I agree, but definitely not always.
Pack already has like package build pack and stuff, right? And like publish to a registry, which are very not end user specific commands already, right? Or at least for most folks who are just application developers. It sort of already takes on this persona to some extent.
So that was the set of commands I was advocating to be externalized elsewhere. But
which
yes.
ones? The everything under
anything
builder?
related to build pack, management.
Why?
Did you say why or I?
Why?
Oh.
I want a command that'll like look at the registry and like pack builder update or build pack update that would update all my dependent build packs based on what's available in the registry. I want more build pack commands.
No, I mean, I totally agree with more, but I'm externalizing as in like putting them away in a separate tool, right? And then pack being more the very app developer centric use case.
I feel like it's one of the CLIs I really like using is G-Cloud. And I feel like you can get some of the benefits that you get from putting it in another tool, but just putting it under subcommands, which is sort of the direction we've been going anyways.
Yeah.
But what's nice about having it in one place is it's still discoverable. But if I'm not interested in that whole persona, like the default help isn't showing me all of that stuff.
Yeah, there could be like a plugin type system or whatever too, where just like maybe it just gets downloaded the first time you use it, but it's not installed by default or whatever you want kind of there. But I do think there's a lot of value in a unified CLI, even if it's compartmentalized in code.
Yeah, I think I'm getting convinced. The G-Cloud example was really good. The other one I'm thinking about is, GGCR, which I like their independent components. And then Red Hat OpenShift has a lot of independent CLIs, and they're definitely less discoverable, but they work fairly well independently. So, but the G-Cloud is by far a winner. I do like the discoverability there.
Yeah, I'm really split there. Like I like the idea of a one-stop shop. And like with the G Cloud stuff, it's like, oh wait, where I gotta go get Crane? Oh, what is this G Crane? You know, but then at the same time, when I'm setting up like the GitHub actions, it's like I just want Crane. I don't want all this other shit, you know. And so it kind of depends. I don't know, like what situation you're in.
I mean, you could probably just do like the old Go Heroku CLI thing, where you could have basically the topics be different CLI binaries, so you could always just download those,
Mm-hmm.
and but then they can be used kind of as part of the plugin system.
Yeah, Pack itself is a thin wrapper around some other tools.
Well, then the CLI could just be a bash CLI, a bash script that executes Go binaries underneath the hood.
I think that's all gcloud is, right? It's like Python wrapper for a whole bunch of other Python crap.
Ooh, yeah, we should do that and then make sure we give people Python stack traces for everything.
Yep, that's exactly what it does. I love it.
I'm not sure that's worse than the Go errors though, where it's just like error something very, very cryptic and no other information.
Well, at least with the Python stack trace, I can look where it's stack traced.
Yeah, that's true. I get that with the AWS CLI too. The problem with the AWS CLI is like you just get like you don't even really understand.
Download, right?
Like it's like all I did was run like ls and I got like a stack trace because it didn't install properly or something.
So the problem with the AWS CLI is AWS. Got it.
Yes.
All right. Are we still on topic or are we
This is recorded.
trailing off?
This is recorded. Be careful.
It's okay.
Seems like these are all far future concerns anyways, right?
Yeah, I enjoy this conversation, but yeah, it's definitely further out.
So we decided not to do makefile stuff then, even though that would be a good potential stopgap.
I don't know if we decided. Let me comb through the makefiles that I have. I seriously have like a dozen build packs now that mostly look the same. I'm gonna see what I can glean from them that might be just applicable across the board. Like a lot of them are around like creating a builder for a specific build pack, like the Minecraft one that made sense to have. The AWS Lambda that made sense to have. But yeah, most of them, I don't think you'd include that across the board. So TBD basically on makefile.
Maybe one day we'll have little utility helpers to like parse all these TOML files and write to these TOML files, so that every bash build pack doesn't just look like a bunch of eardoc TOML files just spread across random cat commands.
Hey man,
yeah, no,
Herdoc is like easier to write than I feel like sometimes in Go to write that TOML file. Like actually less lines.
Reading it's always
I definitely agree with that.
The worst part.
Yeah, a cnb.sh would be good. That's definitely in my sights.
Is that it for today then?
Looks like there was one more thing on here.
Yeah, I have kind of a follow-up.
Oh, Sam, sorry. I didn't realize we were blocking you on this conversation.
Oh, no problem. I came late and just added in late, but it's perfect that it came after your RFC because it's very related. So the my video. The idea, part of the idea for the user research is to have the second phase be like a usability test of some form of build pack authorship. I know we've talked about a couple different solutions we have today. And yeah, I guess I wanted to talk to you all about this and get some ideas of like what would be the most valuable thing to, or a couple of things to watch developers like stumble through and try to do and see where they fail. I have
Are
a
these
list,
like
but
net new people who've never written a build pack? Is that, or are
yes.
you doing like a smattering?
Well, we could do a smattering. I think, yeah, I have like one or two people in mind who've tried to write build packs before, but aren't like part of Paketo or something. And I'm sure you all might be able to help me find a couple other people like that. So we could do a smattering. But yeah, I have a list of potential things we could test. It might be kind of out of date. Let me know. So yeah, basically for the for those of you who are not super familiar with like a usability test, it's basically like you just ask them, you just give them the task and share your screen, or like send them a link to something to walk through. That could be working code, like, you know, actually ask them to download this binary and install it and like go through a task, or it could be like Wizard of Oz style test where it's like man behind the curtain, it doesn't really work, where it's like we type back and forth to each other in a Google Doc and simulate the CLI, or you know, even other methods, but basically just to give them the experience of what it would be like to use this thing, and then ask them to try to accomplish a task and have them talk out loud while they are struggling or doing great to complete that task. Yeah, so basically like, or it can be done with docs too. It's like, read our quick start doc and like do it and follow the doc in front of me and see how it goes. So some things that I had heard mentioned before that we could potentially do this for. Pack file, I don't know if that's still a thing. Just like Project Toml in general, and the process of like either doing service bindings or specifying environment variables as like a way, and that's sort of relevant because it's like a way to specify which dependencies you want in your container. So it's not quite build pack authorship, but it is like container customization. That's kind of the space. And then inline build packs, like we mentioned on this call. And then these are like just a couple ideas that don't exist that just came up from previous interviews that I don't think really make sense. But so yeah, is there anything missing here, or is there one here that's like, oh, this is the thing we should really get feedback on? And then there's also, of course, there's Joe's thing that he just shared.
Yeah, I may be good to test basically using build packs new to see how fast someone can actually bootstrap a build pack together. I think that'd be cool to see, or where they stumble and fall. I know I don't know how easy this would be to test, but I know for me, one of the things that I've struggled a lot with the spec is the build plan, and how it's structured today. And we probably would have to sit down and work with you on it, but it'd be good to, but it's basically like interconnected, like how to communicate between different build packs is kind of what I'm interested in.
Okay. Yeah, so it requires like, you have to get in a little bit deeper before you run into this. Like you need more than one build pack, whether it's yours and somebody else's or two of yours, and you need a build pack. So it's like, I think that's what you mean by we'd have to work with you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, fully expect a lot of hand holding for me. So with any of these, we're you know, we'll bring it, we'll have other conversations or bring it back.
Inline build packs aren't a thing yet, so we definitely won't be able to test those.
Well, we can do the Docker, like he was saying, like it doesn't have to have code, right?
Just like in a doc, you think? Yeah, maybe.
Like,
I mean, I was thinking that might be premature, but maybe not though. Yeah.
Who owns that? Whose RFC is that?
Me.
Joe's.
Okay. I can send you the RFC. I'll find it. It exists in the fact that it's fully spec'd out. We haven't implemented it.
What, I guess, what's the time frame that you're looking?
Not in the literal, in the spec sense of spec'd out.
I think like in the next week or two, I would like to like we could agree on what are the things we want to test, and then work on writing the script for that, and then practice the script, and then hopefully start scheduling people to test with them the second week of February. I'm going to a conference for 4 days on the not next week, but the following week. So yeah, in the next 2 or 3 weeks, if we could decide what we want to test. But also, if there's something really important that just needs a whole month for it to be ready, you know, we could test it later too. So.
Because we could probably hack an inline build pack thing that is just a build pack
Yeah.
that does it, right? Like it doesn't have to be
Yeah,
in life cycle.
That's true.
I think that was like one of Emily's original suggestions.
I think we actually started that at one point. It probably didn't keep up with what was in the RFC, but
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's like the second or third inline build pack RFC, right? So.
Yeah.
And then the other piece of this is like, okay, we have these technologies we want to test. But the other way to look at this is like, what are the scenarios or goals that like the actual user or developer is coming to the situation trying to accomplish using one of these tools? So like one of the things that I feel like we should test in as simple as like, I want to add a file to be in my resulting container. Like, I feel like that's like the absolute simplest customization that somebody might want to do. Although maybe I'm wrong. And then maybe we could take a step up in terms of complexity, or a couple steps up, but what might be some like specific examples of goals one might want to accomplish when that would require you to author a build pack or customize a container somewhere?
I think the example Joe had earlier of like the cube CLI or something, but like, or, you know, like just I want to add a tool and kind of standardize that in a build. I think is like a pretty
like you want to create
concrete and simple
an
use
image.
case.
Like you want to create an image that's reusable, not just for yourself, but for multiple scenarios based on a simple CLI or something. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, just like when you were talking about it before of just like the simple use case of like when you wouldn't want to use inline build pack.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was Kafka CLI, but I think Kube CLI might be better. Kubectl might be better.
It doesn't really matter what the CLI is, but
yeah.
Right.
And that's obviously getting the file in, but then also installing it or running it.
Yeah, it's just like getting the file, making sure it's executable, and then like putting it in a layer or in the workspace directory, right? So you can actually have it on the path.
That's great. Yeah.
I think this is not about creating a build pack, it's about using build packs. I'm not sure if you were trying to go one way or the other, but serving some static assets, like using an Nginx build pack or something like that, which is similar to adding a file to a container, but like the next step beyond that, it's like, here's some files and I want them to be served on a port kind of thing. And I want to be able to use an off-the-shelf build pack. I don't want to write a build pack. I don't really even want to know much about build packs to make that happen.
I just want to specify what those files are.
Yeah, I got a repo with HTML files or whatever, and I want an Nginx build pack to serve them up, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Is this usability mainly to test build pack authorship, or is it like the whole gamut?
I mean, when you say the whole gamut, what do you mean?
All the different personas. So like,
like I'm just apt to have. Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, like that first bullet below the strike through bullet is a build pack author persona. And then my suggestion was for the build pack user persona. And there's at least one other persona we could hit on, but I think Terrence is wondering if you did want to target one of those, or if you did want to go across all of them.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. I mean, my opinion is kind of that the ideal state is like, it would be great if we could get to the point where those two personas are very fluid, and they really exist on a spectrum, so that like a build pack user can become a build pack author relatively easily and quickly, if the situation arises where they are trying to use Buildpacks to build a container for some sort of application, and it turns out it does require them to author something instead of just use the existing Buildpacks in a more sophisticated way. So that kind of slides around the question, but you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, and that is so the inline build pack thing is precisely that, right? Like you typically start as a build pack user, and when you need to dabble, and like, oh, I just need to do this one little thing, you use inline build packs, and that's how you become familiar with the API of build packs, and then you might move towards extracting that into a real build pack. So yeah, I definitely get that.
Okay, cool. So it sounds like there's some consensus here that what we want to test is inline build packs and potentially build pack new, but how it sounds like this would be adding kubectl CLI or the Kafka CLI would maybe best be accomplished using inline build packs and serving. Yeah, go ahead.
I think you do it both ways.
Yeah, you could do it either way. Yeah.
Do both of them as testing this, or
the kubectl CLI build pack could be tested as an inline build pack, or we could test it with like a build pack new command. Okay. Again, sort of, it depends on where we want to hit on that spectrum you're talking about. Like, do we really want to get people that are just dipping their toe in? Do we want to test people as though they are creating, like, as though they are like the Instana people who are building a build pack as part of their business and really need to ship it?
And that's what the thought behind build pack new is? Yeah. Okay. And then what about for testing this scenario? Which tool?
That's strictly build pack user, so neither of those really apply.
Okay, got it. It would just be to the extent that they're able to manipulate.
Yeah, I think the questions I'm curious about with that scenario are, can they discover the build pack they need? Like, how long does it take them to go from, I need to serve these assets, to I could use this Nginx build pack, even before they write a line of code, just that process of figuring that out.
And then they try to write the build pack first?
Yes, right. Because they're institutionalized with Dockerfile, and that's the way you do it. But then after they sort of discover what build pack they need, the next is like, do they realize that they want to put that in a project toml, and are they able to run the pack build command, and do they know what to do with the image that they ultimately produce, how to run it? So there's a whole progression there, I think.
Yeah, you could even just use pack with -- build pack instead of using project toml.
Sure. Yeah, I was just saying, like, where do they land?
Yeah.
Cool.
I think we'll definitely have to come back to you on I definitely would like that build plan use case, but I think we'll have to figure out a good way to actually suss that out.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we can talk about it next week. Is there another scenario that maybe we haven't covered either with these two or with these? Another thing I can do is talk to some of the field folks at VMware who work with customers to migrate apps and like what custom build packs or like new small build packs they've had to write for customers, and has some scenario ideas, but any other ideas that come up?
Natalie, Javier, as maintainers on the sub teams, anything?
Or could you repeat the question?
Is there any other scenario around either customizing the build, the container, or authoring some kind of simple build pack in order to accomplish some customization use case for either of those kind of things? Are there any scenarios that come to mind other than these two examples we provided, one of which is adding a CLI, ensuring it's executable, serving some static assets?
The two that have come up, but I feel like they should be, fairly well satisfied, would be adding just basic environment variables and the use of process types. I don't know how discoverable it is that process types exist and the use case in which they can be used.
Yeah, we had a question pop up in Slack during this meeting kind of around that. And like just stepping back, even the fact that the launcher is modifying the environment for the process is maybe not something that's obvious, or even that the launcher exists.
What's like the problem or goal that they're trying to accomplish there?
Could be like you need a worker process, like you have a web app that has, some binaries in it that do a bunch of different things, and the primary thing is serving web requests, but you also need to have it run database migrations or have it run a background job in a separate container, something like that.
Yeah, I think if we were to like maybe tie these together, right, like it would be leveraging process types to have, like, let's say a worker and a web app, and then having different environment variables for each process type.
Cool.
Are we planning to use our sort of existing documentation to guide them? They're in potentially getting feedback on the docs themselves, or, will we be preparing our own guides, or, I'm just thinking that there's probably many gaps in our docs.
Yeah,
that I would go ahead.
Yeah, it's completely up to us. I mean, if we have the time and inclination to, and we're ready to invest in filling some of those gaps, and because we know these are important situations, we want to ensure those docs are like usable and make sense to people, then we can do that. Or if we don't have time to do that, and we want to look at the existing docs, that's fine too.
I think if we could identify with enough time, like let's say we get a little bit of lead time, that these are the things that we're going to ask people to work with, it might be worth investing in the docs regarding those aspects, just because it'd be a better test, right?
Yeah, of course. And I think, so as good an excuse as any to finally make those investments.
Yeah, I would totally.
I need to.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I need to drop to go to another meeting. But Sam, I wanted to let you know how much that user research doc that you shared in the user research channel was really incredible. And just wanted to thank you for all the work you've done, because it's been, I think, really valuable to us.
Great, wonderful. Thank you so much. It's great to hear. Javier, you're going to jump in before we break?
Yeah. So on that same vein, right? So I think through the scenarios, that makes sense that we probably want to add some documentation, like for the things to test, right? Like I see things like pack file, inline build packs, things that don't necessarily exist yet, right? Like how do we expect those to be tested?
Oh yeah, I'm just throwing these out as possibilities. It sounds like based on this conversation today, it's these two things plus plus maybe Project Toml plus maybe just like pack dash build pack applying environment variables that way.
Okay. The build plan seems reasonable to test. I think pack files maybe the, like if we've got inline covered, pack file seems very distant from anything that we've done.
Well,
Great.
And Statin, isn't it? It's a separate project, right? To some
Yeah.
degree?
Yeah, I just put these down as examples of things that I had heard of that almost exist or pseudo exist. There may be, are there other things that are not here that I'm probably out of date, you know? Or are these the 4 technologies we want to test?
Yeah. This seems like a good list to me.
Yep.
Uh,
Do we have access to this doc?
Yeah,
Cool.
I can drop it in the Zoom chat. I can also drop it in the user research channel in
Yeah, if you don't
Slack.
mind dropping it in Slack, that way I want to like add myself some action items from this to at least create issues in the docs repo so we have them in time.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Cool. Thank you all so much.
You. All right. See y'all.